Welcome again to this broadcast, first broadcast of webnewsjax here on Justin TV. We had a little glitch with our engineering department when we were starting our first go around, but things seem to be working better this time. Anyway, this is our theme music we're going to start the show off with, and you'll hear this at the beginning of every show. We hope you enjoy. Inside, wonder why, keep on driving. Anywhere, so blind, how they go. Anyway, that concludes the beginning music for Web News Jax. This is our first broadcast here on Justin TV, and we're glad that you could join us. We probably aren't going to get a whole lot of viewers here to begin with. This is kind of a building block process. We have been broadcasting on YouTube and have had a lot of views on our broadcast, so we decided that we're going to do a live show. We're going to start it out at about an hour's pace, and then we're going to work up. Anyway, we have a lot of news to cover today, a lot of things going on in the world. I can't help but stay on the Bin Laden lie. I mean, this Bin Laden death hoax is it's just getting way out of hand, folks. Very credible people such as Steve Piziak. I'm bad at pronouncing this gentleman's name, but he's worked for 3 presidential administrations and was the Deputy Secretary of State. I mean, that's a pretty big position, and he's been talked about as the real gentleman that Tom Clancy was writing about in his books. I keep wanting to compare him to that Bauer guy on 48 Hours, but anyway, that was kind of the character that Tom Clancy was writing about, that this gentleman was. You know, he was just out, protecting liberty and, the flag, and he was a guy that really wore a white hat. He wasn't like what we have today, he wasn't spewing out propaganda, lies, and total BS like the current regime tends to. It's the credibility of the Obama administration has just went down the tubes. For one, the man hasn't kept any of his campaign promises. He's granted waivers to all these people, all these companies and corporations that backed him during his election campaign. Their reward was a waiver from Obamacare. I mean, that should tell you alone that, they need waivers because this thing's so tyrannical, so expensive, and just ridiculous. Then he's going after the coal industry. He doesn't want you to have electricity in your home. He wants rolling blackouts. He wants to, make this country a third world country, get rid of the coal plants. But yet, he doesn't penalize GE whatsoever because they supported his agenda, and they're a globalist company. And Obama, he's controlled by the globalists. He's a puppet on the string. 24 hours before he started his bombing campaign of Libya with U.S. forces, he said there is no way U.S. forces are going to get involved in Libya. He was talking to a congressman in confidentiality about this. And then 24 hours later, he just does it without Congress approval. And he goes beyond the mandate of the UN. The UN had given him permission to do a no-fly zone, not a bomb zone, but Mr. Obama took it upon himself to just start bombing the place. Oh, and now we have the birth certificate issue, with Donald Trump calling Obama out. And again, I think Donald Trump is controlled opposition. He does not have the country's greater, better interest in mind, because the man has donated the bulk of his financial, political donations to the Democratic Party. And all of a sudden he wants to jump ship and go Republican. Something stinks there. Something stinks. But he talks a good game. I still believe Ron Paul's our only chance. any candidate that doesn't want to audit or abolish the Fed just isn't going to get the job done. Anyway, let's go on about the birth certificate fiasco, which I believe is why the bin Laden lie or hoax came up. He put out 3 different long-form versions on the internet of this birth certificate and expects the American people to believe this like it's fact. I mean, 3 different versions. 3 different versions. I mean, he said he's been born in 2 different hospitals. And if you go on webnewsjax under the, I think it's the Obama videos, you're going to see he admits he was born in Kenya out of his own mouth. His wife admits and says he was born in Kenya. The Kenya ambassador, His Excellency himself, says it's common knowledge Obama was born in Kenya. In fact, they have a special place, honoring where he was born, where his family resided. But he needed a distraction. Obama needed a distraction. Trump was trumping up things, which I think everything, they're playing a chess game with us, folks. Everything we're hearing, every reaction that we're doing, especially us in the alternative media, is like a chess game that they're manipulating. They're manipulating what we're talking about, what we're doing. Okay, we're not manipulating it. We're not running the game. They are. They're running the gambit. And they want us to talk about this. They want us to question these issues because it's a distraction from the crashing dollar. The dollar is the biggest sinking ship on earth right now. I mean, it's just going down, 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 down. That's what they're trying to distract us from. But it's just convenient how when Obama's birth certificate comes under high scrutiny and question, even the mainstream media, had a little bit of question of it, not much. He got his governor friend who couldn't find the birth certificate originally, not less than a month before it was released, to anoint it, saying it was a official form of documentation. But yet they locked the thing away in Hawaii in a safe where very few people have access to it because they don't want anybody to really examine it because, if you look at it, it was done in layers and it was a photocopy and a poor one at that. But again, folks, that's what they want you to see. They think you're dumb. They think you're stupid and they want to shove your nose in this and then you question it. The people that, the small percentage of us, let's say, I'm going to give us a very generous percentage of the population. Let's say we're 10%. Let's say 10% of us are what you call conspiracy theorists. But the problem with conspiracy theorists like 9/11, like the Obama birth certificate, like all these things going on with the globalists, we can back everything up with fact. In a court of law, if we were to take these conspiracy theories, present our facts against their facts, we would win 1,000%. There would be not even a challenge. There's no doubt 9/11 was an inside job. There's just no doubt. The evidence is overwhelming, but, I'm getting on a different subject here. I'm rambling on. I'm good at that, so you're going to have to be patient with me. I'm going to have to get a script for this show to where I can really get a flow going. But anyway, going back to the Obama lies and the distractions, this bin Laden hoax was to just totally hocus pocus you away from the birth certificate, which was to hocus pocus you away from the real issue, which I don't even think it's the war in Libya, the bombing there. Because what I understand, what I've read about, I haven't wrote an article on this yet because there's really just sketchy information, but it makes sense. Gaddafi was getting ready he's bought tons and tons and tons of gold. He's got just an unbelievable stockpile of gold. And he was getting ready to make a new currency, which they were going to be able to trade for oil. you know, and it was going to just crush the dollar, devastate it. It was going to put the dollar in its grave before its time. And the globalists now, they're working to put the dollar in its grave. It's going to be there. Don't worry, folks. One day you're going to go to the ATM and your money's going to be worthless. You're going to go to the store, your dollar's going to be worthless. And it's just going to happen overnight. It's just going to implode. Things are going to go, and it's going to happen. They're working towards it. They know it. They know it. They are trying to make the United States a third world country. They are trying to bankrupt us. They're trying to take everything we have. They're trying to take your pension funds. They've already taken the pension funds from the soldiers. You know, they got that trick where they send this paper, sign this piece of paper, and you'll get your money. And you're just signing your money away. And if you don't sign it, you don't get your money. But they don't either, so don't sign it. Anyway, enough of that. Let's go on to how they are deceiving us, what they are doing to deceive us, how they are creating all these distractions. Well, if we analyze the bin Laden hoax, you'll see that there's absolutely no credible evidence. You look at the scene of where it's happened, where it supposedly happened in Pakistan, and you find neighbors that, well, they saw explosions. You see cell phones that, you know, recorded fire, explosion, and what appears to be U.S. soldiers that, you know, walk out. You see what I would have to say a drone helicopter that crashed, which I believe caused all the fires and everything. I think they took that in there. I don't know if you remember those little remote controlled helicopters, you know, we played with as a kid, the Whirly Birds, I think they were called or whatever. But some guy was sitting there with this drone, and you know he was controlling it. They went in there and they got the kill, and then they sent this team of guys, you know, to go clean up and to gather up whatever they could or hide whatever they could, clean up the scene, you know, just like the mob does, you know, send in the cleaners, sterilize the scene. Okay, but there's absolutely no pictures of bin Laden. And then what happens from here is they release to the Canadian press 3 pictures of some, you know, deceased men with just horrified looks on their faces. I mean, God, these poor men, you know, they didn't have arms. They weren't fighting back. They were murdered in cold blood. And, you know, we're not even identifying who they are. I think one of them was supposedly bin Laden's son, but, you know, again, you can't believe a thing that you see from or hear from the U.S. government or really from any media source outside alternative media. And then some alternative media, I believe, is, you know, government controlled. You know, I believe Alex Jones is, you know, straight up and true. But, you know, there's other sites, other places, above top secret for one, that I highly question if they're just not a CIA disinformation propaganda outlet. Anyway, we'll get back on the Osama bin Laden hoax. Okay, so then the very next day, the Monday, which is a week, you know, worth of anniversary. Last Sunday is when they announced it, and this Monday is when we were all reacting. We see video footage of them, you know, dropping the body off the aircraft carrier in the casket. You know, we never seen any. The pictures they released were admitted by our own government hoaxes that were just recycled from hoaxes from years back. Nothing credible there. Then they released the Situation Room reaction, and they admit they had no live footage of what was going on. And Miss Hillary Rodham Clinton was like this, but it was because she had allergies. But she was just posing for the camera. And then we got the only man who would have been of any consequence in that room. He looked like a high-ranking, you know, general. He was in uniform. He was at the laptop. He wasn't even looking at the so-called screen. And you know, you got all the cronies and stooges of the Obama administration just standing around there, and you got Obama kind of sitting in the corner, and he looks like such a little man. You definitely looking at that picture wouldn't think he was the president or the man in charge like he tries to boast himself. He just looked like a little man that was uncomfortable there, that was not